Welcome to the Dope Dive. Today, we're opening up some operational documents focusing on a really critical piece of aviation safety tech, TCSS, the Traffic Collision Avoidance System. You know, you rely on it every single time you fly. But here's a paradox we found in the sources, and honestly, it should genuinely shock you. TCAS Resolution Advisories, or RAs. These are the system's last-ditch life-saving commands, and they're failing. A recent Eurocontrol study, it found noncompliance with these RAs is one of the top 5 operational and safety risks in air traffic management.
Right up there.
That really says it all. The danger isn't the tech itself. It's the human factor, under immense pressure. So our mission today is to understand why this happens. Why are these critical RAs not followed correctly, get this, in more than 40% of cases? And then look at how new technology is stepping in. 2 specific functions. TCIP, that's TCSS Alert Prevention, and APFD TCAS. Basically trying to automate a perfect response. Right, so a 2-pronged approach here. First, try to prevent the alert, and second, if it happens, use automation to help execute the maneuver correctly. Let's start with the scale of this compliance problem, because the data from that Eurocontrol study, April 2021, is pretty stark.
It really is. They found flight crews reacted correctly, meaning they did exactly what the RA asked in just 58.7% of cases.
Just 58.7%. So barely 6 out of 10 times it worked perfectly as designed.
That's right.
So what about the other 40-something%? Nearly 4 out of 10 times something's going wrong. What did the study say happened then?
Well, in almost 30% of incidents, 29.8% to be exact, the crew did change their flight path, which, okay, is better than nothing. But they didn't actually reach the specific trajectory TCS needed them to. They didn't quite nail it.
Okay, so an incomplete maneuver. What about the rest?
And this is the most alarming bit. In 11.5% of cases, the flight crew either just didn't react at all.
Yeah.
They froze, or they reacted way too much,
Right.
or sometimes. Sometimes they did the exact opposite of what the RA told them to do.
Wait, hang on. Almost 1 in 8 times, the pilot either ignores the instruction designed to save lives or actively flies the wrong way. That sounds catastrophic.
It really highlights the intensity in the cockpit during an RA. You've got audio warnings, visual cues. It demands immediate action, often overriding what air traffic control just told you, all happening in milliseconds. This huge stress, it often leads to reactions that are too little, too late, or just wrong.
And is there one type of maneuver where this failure is most common? I mean, you'd think a basic climb or descend command would be relatively straightforward, right? But the data seems to say otherwise.
That's exactly the key operational gap. The study showed the lowest compliance rate was for those standard climb or descend RAs. Only 33.7% were followed correctly.
A third. So 2/3 of the time, that basic climb or descend wasn't done right.
Exactly. Either insufficient or incorrect or too slow. And we really can't stress this enough. Prompt and accurate response to an RA is the absolute highest safety priority, period. Which is why this failure rate is driving these tech updates.
Okay, so if pilots manually flying the RA isn't always working perfectly, let's look at the prevention side first. TCAS. TCAS Alert Prevention. What's triggering most of these alerts? Maybe unnecessarily.
Yeah, the main culprit identified is the level off RA. The Eurocontrol study found these made up a staggering 65% of all the RAs they observed.
65%, just from leveling off. That almost sounds like a flaw in the alert logic itself, doesn't it?
It kind of is, yeah. It boils down to prediction. TCAS looks at the aircraft's current vertical speed to see if there's a potential conflict ahead. But when a plane is climbing fast towards its assigned altitude, the system doesn't, anticipate the pilot easing off the power and smoothly leveling out.
Ah, I see. So there's another aircraft nearby, maybe just above or below.
Precisely. If another aircraft is on an adjacent flight level, TDS sees that rapid climb rate continuing, projects a collision path, and bang, triggers a resolution advisory. Even though the pilot was always going to level off, happens a lot in busy airspace.
Right. And traditionally, ICAO, the International Civil Aviation Organization, they just recommended pilots manually select a lower climb rate when they get close to their target altitude, sort of smooth it out themselves.
They did. But as we've seen, relying on manual adjustments under high workload, well, it isn't always optimal.
So that's where TCK comes in.
Exactly. TCCAP, TCS Alert Prevention. It's basically an improved altitude guidance logic built into the flight computers. What it does is, when a traffic advisory, that's the TA, the pre-alert warning pops up near the target altitude, TCCAP engages the guidance mode earlier than usual, automatically.
Okay, so instead of the pilot having to remember to ease off manually, the system anticipates and does it for them. more smoothly.
Yes, much more smoothly. It uses a significantly reduced vertical speed to actually reach the target altitude.
Hmm.
This controlled, gentle approach, it prevents that sharp trajectory change that would otherwise freak out the TCAS logic and trigger the RA.
So it just avoids the whole RA situation altogether for that common level-off scenario. Keeps things calm.
Pretty much. Keeps the flight stable, keeps the airspace quieter, reduces unnecessary alerts.
Makes sense. And availability. Is this widespread?
It's standard on newer big jets like the A350, A380s have had it since 2013. Also on newer A320 family and A330 aircraft since early 2021. And importantly, older compatible aircraft can be retrofitted. They just need to have certain minimum standard of TCS computer, like the Change 7.0 system.
Okay, so TCAS tackles the most frequent issue, those unnecessary level-off RAs. But what about genuine conflicts? When an RA is necessary, we still have that problem of pilots not always executing it perfectly. How do we fix that?
Right. That brings us to the second solution, APFD TCRS. Since we know manual flying during an RA can sometimes be, too weak or maybe too aggressive, Airbus developed this. It's an additional mode for the autoflight system. Its whole purpose is to make sure the RA maneuver is flown optimally, exactly as needed, every single time.
Interesting. But doesn't automating such a critical, high-stress maneuver create maybe other issues, like over-reliance or confusion for the crew?
That's a fair question. The design aims to reduce workload and ensure accuracy, not remove the pilot from the loop entirely. Here's how it works. When a resolution advisory is triggered, this dedicated TCAS mode engages within the autoflight system instantly. It calculates and targets a very specific vertical speed, always 200 feet per minute, safely inside the green fly-to band shown on the pilot's display.
Okay, so it calculates the ideal path immediately, and then
Right.
what does the crew do?
Then the crew has a clear choice. They can keep the autopilot on. If they do, the aircraft just automatically flies that perfect, optimized RA trajectory, smoothly and precisely. Or, if they prefer, they can click off the autopilot, but keep the flight directors on the FD guidance bars on their main display will show them exactly how to manually fly that same optimized path.
Got it. So it provides that perfectly calculated path instantly, either flying it for them or guiding them precisely. It removes the guesswork, the potential for over or under controlling during that really stressful moment.
That's the core benefit. It helps the crew respond correctly, right away, and crucially, only maneuver as much as absolutely necessary. And that's vital for a few reasons. Keeps the maneuver smooth, maintains a moderate load factor, which is better for passenger comfort and safety, less risk of injury from sudden G-forces. And maybe just as important, flying the maneuver precisely helps prevent triggering secondary TCS alerts on other nearby aircraft. Keeps the whole situation calmer.
And it seems pilots who have this system trust it. You mentioned some data.
Yeah, the confidence level seems really high. Airbus analyzed over 130,000 flights on the A350 and A380 where this system is standard. They found that in 91% of actual RA situations, the flight crew chose to keep the autopilot on and let the system fly the maneuver.
Wow, 91%. That's a massive vote of confidence in the automation.
It really is.
Yeah.
And for airlines that operate a mix of planes, some with this system, some without. The sources confirm it's not an issue. The crews just have a simple check during their pre-flight prep. They look at the aircraft configuration summary, the ACS table, and their quick reference handbook, the QRH. That tells them if the specific plane they're flying that day has APFD TCAS available or not.
Okay, which brings us to what seems like the most perplexing part of this whole story, the activation gap. You have this technology, APFD TCAS, which demonstrably makes flying safer by ensuring the last line of defense works correctly, yet it's not being widely activated.
This is the critical safety puzzle right now. Our analysis, looking at the source documents, shows that only slightly more than 30% of the existing A320 family and A330 aircraft actually have this APFD TCS function turned on.
Only 30%. But you said many planes already have the hardware.
Exactly. Many aircraft currently flying already have all the necessary system prerequisites installed. The right computers, the right software base, meaning this huge safety upgrade. It often just requires a software activation, basically flicking a switch via a service bulletin provided by the manufacturer.
Just a software activation to fix a top 5 operational risk? That's genuinely astounding. So how does a crew know, flight to flight, if it's active?
The procedure is built into their normal scan. They check the flight mode enunciator, the FMA, up on the main display. If the TCAS mode shows up as armed, usually in blue text, the pilot flying makes a standard call-out, TCAS blue. That confirms the system is ready, and they prepare for either the autopilot to fly the RA or for the FD guidance bars to appear.
And if it doesn't engage, if the TCS blue isn't there or it fails when the RA hits?
then the training kicks in immediately. If the TCS mode doesn't engage when the RA is triggered, meaning the automation isn't available for whatever reason, the crew instantly reverts to the standard manual procedure. That means autopilot off, flight directors off, and manually fly the aircraft into the green safe zone shown on their display.
Which underlines why training is so critical. You can't just rely on the automation always being there.
Absolutely non-negotiable. Crews have to be proficient, really sharp, on both procedures. Flying with the APFD TCS assistance and flying it completely manually if the system is unavailable or inoperative. Evidence-based training programs, EBT, they recommend this specific training, practice in both scenarios, should happen at least once every 3 years.
Okay. And there was one final point, a small but important procedure change coming up. Something about final approach.
Yes, a standardization update. Expected around May 2022, according to the sources we looked at. It clarifies the immediate action for a TCS warning during the final stages of landing. If the system gives a climb error, a voice saying climb, climb, during final approach, the immediate mandatory action across all types will be go around perform.
No hesitation. Just initiate a go-around.
Exactly. Go around first, sort it out safely at altitude.
Okay. So we've dug into 2 layers of pretty advanced safety tech today, both designed to tackle that really worrying 40% non-compliance rate with TCFA alerts. First, TCK, which cleverly prevents many of the most common, often unnecessary level-off alerts by smoothing out the altitude capture automatically. And second, APFD TCS, which steps in when a genuine RA is needed, ensuring the maneuver is flown perfectly, either by the autopilot or with precise guidance for the pilot. Which brings us right back to that central puzzle. We know noncompliance with RAs is a top 5 safety risk in air traffic management. We know this APFD TCS system dramatically improves compliance. And crucially, we know that a huge number of A320s and A330s already flying have the necessary hardware installed. The upgrade is often just software activation. So the final thought we want to leave you, the listener, with is this. Why? Why do you think more airlines haven't taken the seemingly simple software-based step to close such a significant safety gap? What are the potential cost barriers, maybe operational complexities, or even philosophical reasons about automation that might be preventing 100% adoption of this critical upgrade?
It really poses a question about balancing perceived costs or effort against a known significant safety risk, especially when the fix, for many, is already sitting there just waiting to be switched on.
Something to think about. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive. We'll catch you next time.